Welcome to the second in my series of videos on how to use the foam cubes in your phonics lessons. Today I'm going to be talking about using the cubes for blending activities. So in this instance we're going to use graphemes on each dice. Again, using my colour-coded system, green for go, amber for in the middle, and red for stop. So this is a phase 2 example. You could use this in the teacher part of your lesson, in which case you would get 3 children up to the front, each of them to hold one of the dice. They would roll them and then hold up what it had landed on, and then as a class you would blend them. So in this instance, mat, and then you would decide whether or not the word that you had created was real or not. Sometimes it won't be real. So in this example here, you can also use the cubes in the practice part of your lesson, but then you would ensure that some of the graphemes on your dice would be revision from previous days, as well as having today's grapheme on one of the cubes as well. So in the practice part of the lesson, again, you'd have 3 children to roll the cubes and hold up what they'd landed on, and then you would point and ask the rest of the class to quietly blend in their heads so that you can't hear them. Then you'd ask the children to turn to their partner and sound out the word again quietly. And then you would say 3, 2, 1 and get the children to hold thumbs up if they think it is a real word, thumbs down if they think it isn't, and they can go in the middle if they're not certain if it's real or not. Then, as a class, you would blend and read the word together to check whether they were right. You can also use digraphs on the cubes once you get to the point in the programme where you're using digraphs. So for example, we might just use a green and a red cube, and on the red cube, for example, you might have a grapheme like AY. So if it was the day when you were learning AY as your new grapheme, you might have some single letters on your green cube, and you might have the AY on your red cube, or AU on your red cube, or OY on your red cube. Whichever grapheme you were teaching that day as a new one, you'd have on the red cube, and you'd work that in the same way. So teach part of the lesson, we'd sound out those words together. In the practice part of the lesson, again, if today you were learning AY as your new grapheme, you would want AY on some of the faces of the cube, but you'd want to have revision of other digraphs on there as well, so that during the practice part of the lesson, the children weren't just reading words with the new grapheme today. You can also use the cube game as an adult initiated activity, so you can leave the cubes out for the children to use on their own. It's quite nice to have a piece of paper that they can use. They particularly like to use marker pens. So you've got 2 columns on your piece of paper, one with a tick for real words, one with a cross for not real words. The children roll the dice, and then they write in the word they have created on the tick column if it's a real word, and on the cross column if it isn't. Obviously it's really important that when you create your games, you're making sure that you've looked at all the possible examples of words you could create, and so that you're not unwittingly, or the children aren't going to be unwittingly, creating a word which sounds like it's a real word but actually is spelt incorrectly with the graphemes you've used. If you'd like some cube games that are already pre-made and done for you, and you have access to the gold resources on my website, there are sets of cube games for phase 3, 4 and 5A, 2, 3, 4 and 5A actually. Next time I'll be looking at a different way to use the cubes in your phonics lessons.